It started with something small. It always does. That night, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet that stretches too long, makes you notice every tick of the clock, every hum of the refrigerator. I sat in the living room with the TV on low, pretending to watch something, but really just listening for the sound of her car. It was almost midnight when I heard the tires crunch against the gravel. The headlights flashed briefly through the window, then disappeared. A few seconds later, the front door opened, softly, like she was trying not to wake me. She stepped inside, her hair slightly tousled, cheeks flushed with the cold night air. A scarf hung loosely around her neck, and there was something about her posture, the way she hesitated before closing the door, that made my stomach twist. "You're late," I said. My voice sounded calm, maybe too calm. She smiled, that small, practiced smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Yeah. Lost track of time. Had drinks with the girls." I nodded. It wasn't unusual. She'd been going out more lately, saying she needed to feel like herself again. I told myself it was fine. Everyone needs space. Everyone changes. She crossed the room, leaned down, and kissed my cheek. It was quick, polite, and when she pulled away, that's when I smelled it. A faint scent, expensive and subtle. Not sweet like her usual floral perfume. Deep or sharper. A cologne. I frowned. New perfume? She looked at me, amused. I don't wear perfume. I almost laughed. You sure? Because you smell like. She waved a hand, cutting me off. Probably someone at the bar. You know how those places are. Everyone brushing past each other. Smoke, perfume, cologne, it sticks. She said it easily, like she'd practiced it. Then she walked toward the stairs, unwrapping her scarf, humming something under her breath. For a while, I sat there, staring at the empty space where she'd been. The sound of her footsteps faded, then the quiet returned, heavier this time. I reached up and touched my cheek, where she'd kissed me. The scent lingered faintly on my skin. Not floral. Not feminine. Familiar, somehow. I couldn't place it, but it stayed with me. Even after she disappeared upstairs, even after the house fell back into silence, the smell clung to the air like a question that didn't want to be answered. That night, I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing in the doorway again, the faint smile, the undone hair, the scarf around her neck, and that ghost of a scent that felt like a memory I should have recognized. I told myself it was nothing. That I was imagining things. But deep down, somewhere beneath the calm, something small had cracked open, and I think I already knew. Something was wrong. The next morning, sunlight crept through the curtains, spilling across her side of the bed, empty, already cold. She was downstairs humming softly, the sound of a pan clinking against the stove. Everything seemed normal, almost deliberately so. When I came down, she smiled like nothing had happened. "Coffee?" she asked. I nodded, watching her move, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the calm rhythm in her motions. She was wearing that same scarf again, loosely knotted around her neck. I didn't say anything, but I noticed it. She poured me coffee, kissed the top of my head, and the scent hit again. Faint, but unmistakable. That same cologne. This time, I didn't ask. I just watched her, the way she smiled, the way she avoided looking at me too long. She sat across from me, scrolling on her phone. "You're quiet this morning," she said. "Didn't sleep well," I replied. "Work stuff?" "Yeah." It wasn't work stuff, but I didn't know how to explain what was bothering me. "You smell different" sounded ridiculous. Petty. Still, I couldn't shake it. That cologne followed her everywhere. When she leaned past me to grab something from the counter, it filled the air. When she hugged me goodbye before leaving for work, it clung to her coat. I stood by the door after she left, watching her taillights disappear down the street, and it felt like I was watching a movie I'd already seen, one where I knew how it ended. Later that day, I went upstairs to make the bed. Her scarf was tossed across the pillow, soft and carelessly placed. I picked it up, and there it was again. The same deep, masculine scent. It wasn't strong anymore, but it was enough. Enough to pull at something in my chest I didn't want to name. I brought it close, trying to place it, that faint woody tone, the touch of spice, the warmth beneath it. It was familiar in a way that made my stomach knot. Like something I'd known intimately once, but had long forgotten. I tried to remember the last time she'd worn perfume. She hadn't, not in years. She used to tease me about it, said she liked smelling like herself. So why now? That night, she came home early. I asked how her day was. She said fine. I asked what she'd done after work. She said errands. Every answer was clean, practiced, effortless. We ate dinner together in silence. She smiled at me across the table, that same calm, knowing smile that told me she could sense my unease and that she wasn't ready to explain it. Afterward, while she was washing the dishes, I went upstairs. Her scarf was gone. It wasn't until days later that I realized the smell had seeped into the house, faint, lingering in the air like something that didn't want to leave. And even after she'd gone to bed, I found myself sitting alone in the dark living room, breathing it in again, trying to remember where I'd smelled it before. Not because I wanted to catch her. Because I was afraid of what it meant if I already knew. The scent stayed with me like a thought I couldn't finish. I'd catch traces of it everywhere, in the hallway after she walked by, on the pillow when she left for work, even on the handle of the kettle she used in the morning. It clung to things the way grief does, invisible but persistent. For a while, I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she'd brushed against someone in a store. Maybe it was just a new detergent, or some subtle change I was overthinking. I wanted to believe that. God, I needed to believe that. But denial has a way of wearing thin. One evening, she came home later than usual again. No explanation, no apology. Just that same practiced calm, that same scarf looped around her neck. When she hugged me, the scent was stronger. I could almost taste it in the air. Rough day? I asked. She smiled, tired, distracted. The usual. Meetings ran over. I nodded, watching her drop her bag by the door, kick off her shoes. Her voice sounded perfectly ordinary, but everything about her felt different. Lighter, almost. Like she'd left part of herself somewhere else. Later, while she showered, I went to hang up her coat. There it was again, that cologne, deep and masculine, laced into the fabric. I pressed my face to the collar and breathed in slowly, trying to place it. It wasn't like anything she'd wear. It wasn't like anything she'd ever liked. It felt familiar, hauntingly so, but my memory couldn't quite catch it. It hovered on the edge of recognition, taunting me, like a word stuck on the tip of my tongue. At dinner, she hummed quietly while eating. A soft, tuneless sound, like background noise. I used to love when she did that. It made the house feel alive. Now, it just sounded distant, like she was humming to herself, not to us. New shampoo? I asked, pretending to sound casual. She looked up briefly. What? Oh. No. I forced a smile. You smell different lately. She frowned, like she hadn't expected me to mention it again. Still on that? Still on what? This perfume thing, she said, laughing lightly. You're acting like I'm having an affair with a bottle of cologne. Her tone was teasing, but her eyes stayed locked on mine, too sharp, too watchful. I'm just saying it's new, I murmured. Well, maybe it's you, she said, standing up. Maybe you're imagining it. She took her plate to the sink, her back turned to me, her voice softer now. You've been working too much. You're tired. Don't start making ghosts out of shadows. I didn't answer. I just watched her, her movements measured, deliberate, the way someone acts when they know they're being observed. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat in the living room again. The house was dark except for the faint orange glow of a streetlight leaking through the curtains. The silence was thick, heavy. And in that stillness, I could smell it again, faint but distinct, clinging to the air. I closed my eyes, trying to remember. Not her. Not the lie. Just that scent. And then, like a slow spark in the dark, a memory surfaced, dim but undeniable. A bottle I once owned. A gift she'd given me years ago. A cologne I'd stopped wearing because she said it was too strong. My pulse slowed. My chest went hollow. Because suddenly, the scent wasn't unfamiliar at all. It was mine. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, that scent came back, my scent. Not from years ago, not from some distant past, but vivid and present, like it had never left. In the morning, I sat on the edge of the bed while she slept beside me, her breathing calm and even. The sunlight poured softly across her face, making her look peaceful, innocent, even. I almost wanted to believe it. Almost. I looked at the scarf draped over the chair in the corner. A pale gray one, soft and elegant, the same one she'd worn the night she came home late. I stood up, crossed the room quietly, and picked it up. The smell was faint now, but it was there, unmistakable. The cologne I used to wear. The one she said gave her headaches. The one she once threw out when we moved into this house, saying it smelled like a man trying too hard to be someone he's not. I remembered how I'd laughed it off then, how I'd said I'd wear whatever she liked. How I'd stopped wearing it after that day. Now, years later, that same scent clung to her. It wasn't just betrayal that hit me in that moment, it was something more haunting. Because it wasn't random. It wasn't careless. It felt intentional. She had found someone who wore what I used to wear. Someone who smelled like the man I used to be. I sat down on the bed, my hands trembling slightly, the scarf bunched in my lap. I wanted to cry, or scream, or wake her up and demand an explanation. But I didn't. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't something she'd admit to. She'd just smile that calm, careful smile, tilt her head, and say, "You're imagining things again." So instead, I just sat there, listening to her breathing. That morning, when she woke up, she smiled at me the same way she always did, soft, unbothered, like everything between us was still fine. "Morning," she said, stretching. "Morning," I replied. My voice came out quieter than I meant it to. She got up, wrapped her robe around herself, and headed to the bathroom. When she walked past me, the faint scent of that cologne drifted through the air again, and I felt something twist in my chest. After she closed the door, I just sat there staring at the space she'd left behind, the way the air still carried her, and me, or the ghost of me, at least. Later that day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The idea that maybe she wasn't running away from me, maybe she was chasing an old version of me. The man I used to be when we first met. The one who laughed easily, who didn't come home late from work, who didn't let silence fill the house. Maybe she missed him. Maybe she'd found someone who reminded her of him. That thought hurt more than anything else. Because it meant she wasn't with him instead of me. She was with him because of me. That night, I watched her from across the dinner table, her delicate movements, the way she smiled at the same old stories, the way her eyes avoided mine when I tried to hold her gaze. And for the first time, I realized she wasn't lying to me out of malice. She was lying to keep the illusion alive, the illusion that she still loved the man she thought I was. I went to bed early, pretending to be tired. When she came to join me, the scent followed, soft, faint, familiar. She slipped into bed beside me and rested her hand on my chest. "You okay?" she whispered. "Yeah," I said. "Just thinking." She smiled sleepily, her head on my shoulder. "About what?" I hesitated. Then I said quietly, "About how strange it is, the things we remember, and the things we forget." She murmured something, already half asleep. I watched her for a long time, wondering if she could still tell the difference between the man beside her and the one she was trying to bring back to life. Because I wasn't sure I could anymore. Over the next few days, I started noticing little things, small, ordinary details that didn't mean much on their own, but together, they formed a pattern. The kind of pattern you don't see until you stop lying to yourself. Her habits had changed. She was humming more, but not the same tunes as before. She cooked dishes she hadn't made in years, things I'd loved once, when we first moved in together. She even wore her hair differently, the way she used to back then, loose and simple, before she started tying it up for work every day. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. People change, tastes circle back. But then I found it, the bottle. It was late afternoon. She'd gone out to run errands, her favorite excuse lately, and I was putting laundry away. When I opened her drawer to fold her sweaters, something rolled and tapped against the wood, a small, square glass bottle with a black cap. The label made my chest tighten. L'Homme Yves Saint Laurent. My cologne. The same one she had once thrown away. I picked it up carefully, turning it over in my hand. Half empty. Recently used. It was almost surreal, holding something that felt like proof, but not of infidelity in the usual sense. It was deeper, stranger. She hadn't found a new man. She'd found an old memory. And somehow, she'd bottled it. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at that cologne like it might explain something. I remembered the day I first bought it, before we were married, before life became a list of routines and unspoken compromises. She'd said it made me smell like the kind of man who knows what he wants. I hadn't worn it in years. Now, it was back, not on me, but on her. When she came home that evening, she looked surprised to find me in the bedroom. Her keys clinked softly as she set them down. "You're home early," she said. I held up the bottle. "You've been wearing this?" Her eyes flicked to it, then back to me. "It's just cologne." "I know," I said. "It's mine." She smiled faintly, not defensive, not guilty, just tired. "You stopped wearing it." "I found a bottle online. Thought maybe I'd remind you." "Remind me?" Before," she said simply. "You used to smell like that when you'd come pick me up after work. Remember? When we couldn't keep our hands off each other?" Her voice was soft, nostalgic, but her eyes were far away, like she wasn't talking to me anymore. "Clara," I said quietly, "who are you really trying to remind?" She blinked, startled, then forced a laugh. "Don't be dramatic. It's just a smell. You're overthinking again." But I saw it then, the way her fingers tightened slightly, the way her breath hitched. She wasn't over me. She was over us. She walked past me and placed the bottle back in the drawer, closing it gently like a secret. "Let's not turn everything into a problem," she said. "It's nice to remember who we were sometimes." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her words. Not who we were sometimes. It was subtle, but the meaning cut deep. She wasn't mourning me. She was mourning a moment, a version of love that had faded so quietly we never heard it go. As she slept beside me, her breathing soft and steady, the scent filled the space between us again. My scent. Her scarf. Our ghosts. And for the first time, I wondered if she missed me or just the man she imagined when I was still worth remembering. In the days that followed, something inside me shifted. Not anger, that would have been easier. What I felt was quieter, heavier. A kind of mourning that didn't have a name. We still spoke, but our words were different now, smaller, careful. She'd ask how work was, I'd ask if she needed anything from the store. Every sentence felt rehearsed, stripped of emotion. And yet, every time she passed by me, that scent trailed behind her, my scent, like a ghost following its own shadow. One evening, she came home early. I was in the garage, sanding an old piece of wood, the kind of quiet work that keeps your mind steady. I heard her footsteps before I saw her, light and uncertain. She leaned against the doorframe, smiling softly. "Still at it?" she asked. I nodded. "Helps me think." "About what?" I hesitated. "Us." That stopped her smile. She stepped closer, brushing a bit of sawdust off my shoulder, her fingers lingering for a moment. The scent was stronger tonight, the deep, familiar blend of spice and cedar. I swallowed hard. "Don't," I said quietly. Her hand froze. "Don't what?" "Use that," I said. "Don't wear that when you're around me." She frowned, lowering her eyes. "It's just cologne, Robert." "No," I said, "it's not. You're wearing me." Or the idea of me. I don't even know which anymore. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She looked hurt or maybe just caught. I put down the sandpaper and wiped my hands. You think I don't notice? The way you hum now. The way you cook my old favorites. You're not reliving us, Clara. You're recreating something that's already gone. She crossed her arms, defensive now. You make it sound like a crime to remember being happy. I shook my head. Remembering isn't the same as pretending. For a moment, the silence between us felt unbearable. Then she said softly, I miss who we were. So do I admitted. But you're not trying to find me, you're trying to find him. The version of me who made you feel alive. You're chasing ghosts. Her eyes welled up, but she didn't cry. She just whispered, maybe that's all we have left. She turned and walked back inside. I stayed there, staring at the sawdust settling in the air, thinking about what she'd said. Maybe she was right. Maybe nostalgia is the last refuge for people too afraid to admit something is over. Later that night, I came upstairs and found her sitting in bed, reading. Her scarf was draped across her lap, that same gray one. The one that started all of this. She looked up and smiled. You coming to bed? Yeah, I said, but I didn't move. I watched her fold the scarf carefully, almost lovingly, and place it on the nightstand. Her movements were slow, almost ceremonial. When she turned off the light, I could still smell it. That faint trace of cologne between us, suspended in the dark. It was like sharing a bed with the memory of myself, the man she wanted to keep alive, even if it meant burying the one right beside her. And in that moment, I realized something cruel. I wasn't jealous of whoever she'd been seeing. I was jealous of me. The next morning felt strange, like waking up inside a dream I couldn't quite remember. She was already downstairs, the smell of coffee and toasted bread filling the air. Everything seemed ordinary, but that was the problem. The ordinary had become her disguise. When I walked into the kitchen, she was standing by the counter, stirring her coffee slowly. The scarf hung loosely around her neck again. I didn't need to get close, I could already smell it. My cologne. My past. Morning, she said lightly, without looking up. Morning, I answered, taking a seat. She glanced at me for a brief second, searching my face for something, maybe a reaction. But I'd grown too good at hiding it. Big day at work? She asked, pretending to sound casual. Not really. She nodded and took a sip. Silence filled the space between us. The sound of the spoon clinking against the mug felt too loud. Finally, I said it. Why that scent? She froze. The spoon stopped mid-stir. What do you mean? She asked, voice calm but thinner now. You know what I mean. Her lips parted slightly, and then she smiled, that small, controlled smile that had started to feel like a mask. You're still thinking about that? It's not just anything, I interrupted, more sharply than I meant to. You hate that cologne. You always did. Her expression softened, almost sad. I used to hate it, yes. But I also remember when I didn't. She walked around the counter, standing across from me. You used to wear it when we first met. Remember? You'd come over smelling like it, and I'd tease you for putting on too much. But secretly, I loved it. Because it meant you were coming to see me. Her eyes glistened, and for a second, I saw the girl I'd fallen in love with, the one who used to laugh into my neck, who used to smell like rain and wine and everything that felt alive. But that girl was gone. So what changed? I asked quietly. She hesitated. You did. Her honesty cut deeper than any accusation could have. You stopped wearing it. You stopped doing a lot of things. You got quieter. Sadder. And she trailed off, looking down. I guess I wanted to feel close to that again. To you. The you from before. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of her words settling like dust. So you found someone who reminded you of him instead. She flinched, just barely, but enough. I didn't need her to confirm it. The silence did that for me. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. He wasn't you. But he reminded me of you. The way you used to be. The way you used to look at me. And that made it okay? I asked, my voice trembling. No, she said quickly. Nothing about it was okay. I wanted to remember what it felt like to be seen again. The words hung between us, fragile, brutal, true. I wanted to be angry, but instead, I felt hollow. Because I understood. I'd stopped seeing her too. We'd both been ghosts for a long time, haunting the same house, pretending it was still home. She reached out for my hand, but I pulled back slightly. Not out of spite, but because I couldn't tell if she was reaching for me or the memory of me. Her eyes filled, but she blinked them clear. I'm sorry, she said softly. I don't even know who I was trying to love anymore. Neither did I. When she left for work that morning, she kissed my cheek, the same place she had that first night. The same faint scent clung to the air long after she was gone. I sat there for a long time, tracing the ghost of that touch, and realized something bitterly poetic. She didn't cheat on me with another man. She cheated on me with memory. And maybe that was worse. The house grew quieter after that morning. Not the kind of silence that follows a fight, no slammed doors, no shouting, no storm left behind. This was a different kind of silence. Heavy. Careful. The kind that made every sound, every clink of a spoon, every footstep down the hall feel like it didn't belong. We started orbiting each other like strangers who'd once shared a language but had forgotten the words. I'd come home later than usual, she'd go to bed earlier. We ate dinner together out of habit, not hunger. The television filled the gaps where conversation used to live. But every so often, that scent returned faint, familiar, and devastating. On her scarf. On her coat. Once, even on the pillow beside me. It wasn't just the cologne anymore. It was the echo of everything we'd lost. One night, I came home to find her sitting on the couch, staring at an old photo album. It was one I hadn't seen in years, our honeymoon, the early days, the moments when time still moved slower, softer. She didn't hear me at first. You're looking through the old stuff, I said quietly. She jumped a little, then smiled, her eyes red but dry. Yeah. Just remembering. I walked closer. The page she had opened was one from Venice, her in that summer dress, laughing at something I'd said, the sunlight catching in her hair. I remembered that day. The smell of salt in the air, the way she leaned against me, the way she whispered, "Don't ever let this end." I forgot how happy we looked, she said. Yeah, I whispered. We were. She looked up at me then, and I could see it. The guilt. The sorrow. The unbearable truth of realizing that the past she was clinging to wasn't coming back. Do you ever miss it? She asked. Every day. She nodded slowly, as if that answer hurt more than if I'd said no. I never wanted to hurt you, she said. I just wanted to feel that again, what it was like before life got so ordinary. I sat down beside her. And did you? She hesitated. For a little while. Her honesty was like a knife, clean, merciless. I didn't go looking for it, she continued. He just reminded me of you. How you used to hold me, how you used to talk to me like I was the only person in the world. I knew it was wrong, but for a moment, I felt like myself again. I stared at the photograph, the two of us smiling like time couldn't touch us. And what about now? Her voice broke a little. Now I feel like I'm trying to love two ghosts, the man I lost, and the man I made up to replace him. The silence that followed wasn't angry. It was the kind that comes when there's nothing left to defend. After a while, I closed the album and stood up. You can't keep chasing the past, Clara. It's not waiting for you. I know, she said, her voice barely a whisper. But it's all I have left. I walked away before she could see my eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, listening to her breathe beside me. Every rise and fall of her chest was a reminder of how close she was and how far. It's strange how love doesn't end with betrayal. It just fades into quiet, until you can't tell the difference between remembering someone and missing them. As I stared into the dark, I realized something that chilled me: she wasn't wearing the cologne anymore. And somehow, that hurt the most. Because it meant she'd finally stopped trying to find me even in someone else. In the following days, the air between us changed again, not tense, not angry, just hollow. Like a room after someone moves out but leaves behind their scent. We still shared the same space, the same bed, the same routines, but it felt like we were pretending to live inside a photograph, flat, distant, beautiful only because it was no longer real. Clara spoke less. When she did, it was about small things: groceries, bills, the weather. Her voice had that quiet steadiness of someone trying not to make waves. And I matched her tone, because what else was there to say? We had both confessed enough without ever really saying the words. One evening, while she was in the shower, I sat at her vanity. I don't know why. Maybe I was searching for something, maybe I was just trying to feel close to the truth one last time. The drawer slid open easily, and there it was, the bottle of cologne. Still half full. Still his, or mine, depending on how you looked at it. I lifted it, uncapped it, and for a moment, I almost sprayed it on myself. But I couldn't. I just held it there, breathing it in the smell of who I used to be, of who she still wanted to remember. It was a cruel kind of nostalgia. Not the sweet kind that makes you smile, but the kind that reminds you how far you've fallen from the person someone once believed you were. When she came out, steam following her like mist, she froze. "What are you doing?" I didn't turn around. "Just looking." Her gaze dropped to the bottle in my hand. "You shouldn't go through my things." I laughed softly, not bitterly, just tired. "Your things? Funny, I thought this used to be mine." She sighed, wrapping her towel tighter. "It doesn't mean what you think it means, Robert." I finally faced her. "Then what does it mean?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I watched her struggle for an answer that wouldn't hurt either of us. There wasn't one. "It means," she said finally, "that I missed something I can't have back. Not you, not him, just that feeling. Of being seen. Of being wanted. Of being alive." Her honesty felt like the softest cruelty. "And now?" I asked. "Do you still feel that way?" She looked down. "No. I feel tired." We both laughed a little at that, quietly, like two people sharing a secret they no longer cared to hide. I set the bottle down and stepped toward her. "You could have told me," I said. "You could have said you were lonely." "I did," she whispered. "You just stopped hearing it." That hit me harder than any confession could. Because she was right, I had stopped listening. I'd built walls out of silence and routine, and she'd found a ghost to talk to instead of me. I reached out, brushing a strand of damp hair from her face. She didn't flinch, but she didn't lean into it either. Just stood there, eyes glassy, somewhere far away. In that moment, I knew we were finished. Not because of what she'd done, but because of what we'd both allowed to disappear. We weren't two people anymore. We were two memories of who we used to be, still breathing, still moving, but already gone. That night, we slept in the same bed, but it felt like we were oceans apart. When I woke up, she was already gone, the scarf missing from its usual place, the bottle gone too. And the air, for the first time in weeks, smelled like nothing at all. I lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, realizing that emptiness has its own scent too. It smells like peace. And loss. And something that was once love. It's been 3 weeks since she left. The house is quiet in a way that feels final now, not expectant, not tense, just settled. The scent that once haunted every room has faded completely. There's nothing left to remind me of her except the small things she forgot: a mug with lipstick on the rim, her hairbrush by the mirror, a single earring resting in the drawer beside the bed. I thought the emptiness would hurt more. But instead, it feels still. Like the moment after a storm when everything is damp and broken, but the air is finally clean. Some nights, I find myself walking through the house in the dark, tracing the outlines of things we used to share: the couch where she'd fall asleep reading, the kitchen where she'd hum old songs, the bed where we spent years trying to stay in love. I don't cry anymore. There's no anger left to burn. Just memory, quiet and constant. I went to the park yesterday. It was cold, and the trees were bare, but I sat on a bench and watched couples pass by. One of them was laughing, the kind of laughter that comes easy when everything's still new. And for the first time, I didn't feel envy. Just recognition. They'll learn, I thought. Love isn't a flame. It's a scent, it lingers long after the fire dies out. When I came home, I opened the hall closet to grab my jacket, and something slipped from the shelf: her scarf. The gray one. I held it for a long time, feeling its softness, the faintest trace of her perfume still caught in the fabric. Not the cologne, not that scent, just hers. I didn't cry. I didn't clutch it to my chest like in the movies. I just folded it carefully, set it on the table, and turned off the light. Because some things don't need to be kept, only acknowledged. I've come to realize that love doesn't vanish when someone leaves. It just changes shape. Sometimes, it becomes silence. Sometimes, a scent that reminds you of who you used to be. And sometimes, it's just the memory of someone closing the door for the last time, gentle, almost kind. If you're listening to this, maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've stood in the same quiet room, realizing that the person you loved didn't stop loving you, they just stopped recognizing the version of you they once did. If that's you, don't chase their ghost. Let it go. The real tragedy isn't that they found someone else, it's that they lost sight of who you were together. Good night, everyone. And if you've ever loved someone enough to forgive them in silence, I see you. If you felt this story, drop a like, leave a comment, and tell me, have you ever smelled something that brought the past rushing back? Because for me, it was her scarf. And for a while, that was enough to remember everything.